Hey, everybody. Yeah, I know Dana's not here to TikTok me. So I'm slightly late. I'm a few seconds late, but I'm here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me once again. Hope everybody who celebrated or marked the holiday has been having a good Juneteenth. And let's have a good live stream. What do you say? I will be answering questions that were submitted ahead of time by my Patreon patrons and channel members for the first part of the show, as usual. And then I will turn my full attention to the live chat. So if y'all are with me in the live chat and um, you have a question or a comment or a super chat that you are planning on generously tossing my way, if at all possible, try to hold on to it until I get through the patron and member questions, because that's when I will be turning my full attention to the live chat and I won't really be paying close attention to the chat up until then. And of course, after I get through the patron and member questions, we will be watching a brand new Stuffy and Friends short as well before I turn everything over to the live chat. So, with all of that being said, 255 AD says, "Are you enjoying your humanity?" Uh, yes. given the fact, given the fact that I have no experience with anything else, I mean, I have a somewhat narrow perspective, but yes, I'm enjoying my humanity. Anyway, let's turn to the pre-submitted patron and member questions, shall we? And the first one of those comes from Demonox, who says, "Sometimes I like to rewrite episodes in my headcanon, not to do it better, but just for fun. Ever wonder what Tinker, Tenor, Janitor, Spy with Ernest would be like? His daydreams intercepted, what crazy device he would defeat the Blorg with? Or if John Candy was in It's Only a Paper Moon as the club owner, how his approach to helping Nog would differ. Not as a fan trying to fix it, but just ridiculous thought experiments. You know, I every time Ernest comes up in these, I gravitate right toward that because I am, of course, a big Ernest fan as well. Maybe instead of the Borg, they have to fight Dr. Otto. Maybe there's Dr. Otto is the Borg queen, right? That works for me. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, but no, I do. It's kind of like when people imagine like the Muppets version of something. That game people play on social media where they're uh, like pitch the Muppet version of this movie. And, not only do you have to assign which Muppets will play which roles, but also you have to decide which one human character that you keep that will still be played by a human actor. So it's kind of like that. And yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, Dr. Otto for Borg Queen or Borg King, I guess. Um, General Contact Unit Problem Child. Can you be anti AI without being anti computer technology advancing in general? If yes, is that something people need to say? Something I worry about is because most of the tech sector seems to have decided AI is the entire future of information technology, it kind of makes it look like opposition to AI is saying computer technology needed to stop advancing entirely in like 2022. P.S. I saw this the other day and briefly thought you'd somehow done it on purpose. And here is the image that was sent along. And as you can see, it's on my cause and effect video. And the a major plot point in that episode of Star Trek is that Data sees a bunch of threes everywhere, and that's what signals to him what the solution to the dilemma is. And there's exactly 333 comments on the on the video. So no, yeah, I don't have that kind of power to do it on purpose, but that is really funny, and it's cool that you caught that. Um, can you be anti AI without being anti computer? Yes, you can. I mean, should people? Is that something people need to say? I guess if they care, if that's a distinction that they feel is important for people um, to get from them. Although, I mean, does it really need to be said? Like, I mean, yeah, you're right in the sense that the tech sector has been pushing AI to the exclusion of pretty much everything else. And so if you say you're anti AI, then from that perspective, it could sound like you're saying that you're just anti technology in general. But surely AI, even as all encompassing as AI has become, surely there are other, potential advances in technology that are not strictly tied to it. And also, I mean, one thing that I have tried to do when I talk about AI is to make it clear that I'm not against it in principle. I'm against the way it is being pursued right now, and I'm against it for the ethical issues that exist because of the way that it is being developed and being used. If we can figure out a way to pursue AI that isn't as costly to natural resources and isn't, disregarding the rights of artists and writers and other, creators whose work is used to train it for no compensation to them. Like if we can solve those problems, uh, then a lot of my ethical objections to AI would go away. Now, I'm not saying that those problems are going to be solved like overnight, but in just in theory, I'm not against AI. I'm against AI being pushed to do things it's not able to do yet, and I'm against it, for the reasons I just went through. But I'm not against it in principle. I'm not saying like no, under no circumstances we must never ever have AI ever. I think under the right circumstances, used the right way and developed to the point where it's able to do the things it's being asked to do. As I've said before, it could be it's going to wind up eventually, hopefully, being a useful tool. You know, it's not going to replace human creativity or human ingenuity, and it shouldn't be used for that, but it should be used as a tool. And hopefully, eventually, we'll get to that point. So, I mean, I'm not against it just conceptually. I'm just against the way it's been used a lot. But yeah, you can be anti AI and not be anti technology. William, when did you realize you wanted to be a comedian? I know you can be serious, but you have a funny bone too. We're using comedian in kind of a general sense. Um, I was just when I was growing up, ever since I was a little kid, I was always one of the funny guys. Like some of my best friends in school. Even going back to elementary school, some of my best friends and the guys I wanted to hang out with were the ones that just got why something was funny. They had the term sense of humor has become so generalized that we kind of forget that it has a very specific meaning. Like you can literally have a sense of humor, like what is funny and what isn't. I mean, obviously from your own subjective perspective, but still, like you have a sense of what's funny and what's not. And you can kind of, even if you can't articulate it, you can intuitively understand why it's funny. And I've always just been like that. And I've always enjoyed hanging out with other people that are like that. And that's kind of where that comes from. And I've always loved other people that I thought were funny. I've always loved, humorous writers and stand-up comedians and people who were comedic actors. It's always been something that I have loved and appreciated and sought to understand and emulate, and usually do a fairly poor job of emulating it. But no, it's always been something that. And I mean, my father is really funny. My grandfather and grandmother, they were both just hilarious people. Like I've been surrounded by funny people my whole life. The brain. Last Ask Away, I asked about the stories that tell us who we should be versus who we are. Since you felt the stories who tell us who we are, if written well, were more impactful, what story that tells us who we are do you feel has been most impactful on society, and why is it The Great Gatsby? Oh boy. I don't know if The Great Gatsby has been the most impactful. I don't know if enough people have actually read and understood The Great Gatsby for that to be true. What story tells us who we are has been the most impactful? That's a really good question. Because, like, are we talking about like literature? Are we talking about something on TV or a movie? A lot of people watched Roots when it originally aired, and that's definitely a story that tells us who we are, in very bad ways and some good ways. Uh, and that was an event, like millions and millions and millions of people watched that. I'm not sure how much of an impact it had. I think it did have a positive cultural impact, at least for a little while. Um, So maybe that, I don't know. Um, I mean, as a lover of The Great Gatsby, it would be wonderful if I could truthfully say, "Oh, The Great Gatsby." Of those kinds of stories, The Great Gatsby is the one that was the most impactful. But I mean, have we learned the lessons of The Great Gatsby? Here we are over 100 years now since it was first published. Does this look like a society that has learned from The Great Gatsby? Unfortunately, I don't think so. Um, John Everett, what's your view on the changing role of men when viewed through the Twilight Zone episode, The Masks? As a child, I watched this episode and understood that the dying old millionaire imposed permanent physical disfigurement upon his loathsome family members as retribution for their vapid, coarse, and cruel lives. But as someone who has now helped to raise two children, I see the old man as the monster. If our children are bad, it's because we failed to teach them how to value others. That's a really good interpretation of that episode, and I kind of agree with you. I think as much as I like that episode, um it is very one-dimensional, and it definitely feels like wish fulfillment written from the perspective of a parent. Like if you are a parent and your children grow up to be just absolute awful people like the adult children in that episode are, I mean, they weren't born that way, and like either they learned it from you or you were negligent in your role as a parent and they learned it from someone else. And, either way, you as the parent have some role to play. And yeah, the episode does kind of let the old man off the hook. The old man is like, I'm going to teach you kids a lesson. My terrible children, you're finally going to learn. And like, that's sort of the episode. But, and I mean, the kids are awful. Like, the kids are truly awful. And when the old man finally dies, like, they're gleeful that the old man is dead and now they're going to get his money and now they're going to get everything they've always wanted. Like, the kids in the show are awful. But it's not a documentary. It's a written piece. And yeah, it is awfully heavy on the kids are awful and awfully light on what role did the father play in making this happen. Donovan Boyle, hey Steve, hope you're doing well. I was wondering, who are your top 3 MST3K hosts? Oh man, this is so tough because I mean, we as MST3K fans have been truly spoiled because I don't think there has ever been a bad host. I mean, obviously, as someone who watched the show back in the day, I will always have great love and affection for Joel and Mike. But Jonah was great. Emily was great in her episodes for the one season that she did it. And I never saw the stage show, but she was the host in the stage show as well. Um, and it's such a cruel question because you're asking for the top 3 and there are 4 hosts. So like somebody's going to be left out. And I feel like Emily's going to end up being the one left out, even though she's fantastic. But just because we see the least of her, because she only gets about half of the shows in the final season that they produced, whereas Jonah got an entire season to himself before that last season where he split the duties with Emily. But I mean, I feel like I have to leave Emily off just because of that. But she's hilarious. She's really funny. The great thing about the MST3K hosts is they all do it their own way. They all have their own sense of humor and their own kind of approach, and they all have their own unique relationship to the robots. And it works. Like each iteration of it works really well. And but yeah, I mean, if I have to pick only 3, I've got to go, you know, Joel, Mike, and Jonah. But very unfair to Emily to force me to leave one off. Wolfram and Hart, I appreciate what may be a trend of reviewing at least new sci-fi movies, but now thinking about it, I'm unsure if you've even commented upon, at least specifically, what may be the most Star Trek movie in a decade, and honestly, my favorite movie in years, Project Hail Mary. It even has a Horta-like plot development and a positive message about the future of humanity. Well, not literally, but morally. 2026 has such a karma debt. Why not accentuate the positive? Question. Love Rocky. No, I haven't done a video about Project Hail Mary. I have seen it. I did watch it on streaming when it was available to rent on streaming a few weeks ago. I mean, it's great. It's amazing. It's a wonderful movie. If I had I wish I had seen it in the theater, but my newfound determination to try and see more movies in the theater had not been awakened in me quite yet when Project Hail Mary was having its theatrical run. So I did not see it in the theater, but I wish I had, because it's great. And if I had seen it, I certainly would have done an off the cuff review of it when I got home, like I have been doing recently, like I did today for The Death of Robin Hood. No, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. And yes, there are a lot of Star Trek-ish qualities to it, but it doesn't, you know, uh, it doesn't live and die by that. It's its own thing, and it's a beautiful, human story where one of the characters is is not a human, but is, the way it works in sci-fi. And no, it's great. Project Hail Mary is wonderful. It's a wonderful movie. Maybe I'll make a video about it at some point if I can think of something specific to say about it or some angle to approach it from. But no, if you're wondering about my opinion of it or if I've seen it, I have seen it, and I thought it was fantastic. David Colby thinks you can kick ghosts if you try hard enough. You always talk about how you always talk about how you don't understand why people play TTRPGs, and I could explain why, but you don't care. Smart fellow. Anyway, would you rather be the guy that gets skeletonized by a spooky ghost child to prove the situation is serious, or be the guy she fucks with for 2 hours while skeletonizing everyone else before killing you last? Like me, I say just get it over with if I'm getting skeletonized either way. Better to have it happen when I'm not expecting it, No, I want to go last. I want to go last. I want to know it's coming. Yeah. I want to know it's coming. That's I feel that very strongly. So you can go ahead and be one of the first ones to go. I will be the last to be skeletonized. I want to hang on by my fingernails until the very last moment. An enemy spy, servant of the secret fire and wielder of the flame of Anor. Okay. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Udun. When I was born, Star Trek TNG was already a beloved cultural touchstone. But you're old and near death enough to remember the distant year of 1987 when all there was season 1. What was people's opinion of it back then? Did everyone think it was a giant pile of space poo, or was the excitement of a new Star Trek series enough to keep people interested? P.S. Mariners greater than Orioles, blows raspberry. Well, I mean, remember, I was only 7 years old, so my read on the overall cultural response to to Star Trek: The Next Generation may not be very reliable, but I feel like opinions varied. There was kind of a split consensus in terms of the show. There were a lot of Star Trek fans who were just kind of like it happens today. There were a lot of fans that were just excited that there was a new Star Trek thing. And I mean, remember back then TNG was a very new Star Trek thing. Like, it wasn't just a new movie with Captain Kirk and company. It was a completely new branch of the franchise. It was a totally new show with new people and even a new setting. It was 100 years in the future. And I mean, so there were a lot of people that were very, very excited about it. And there were people that watched it and thought, yeah, this isn't very good. I mean, it was a little bit of both. And if you watch if you go back and read the sort of mainstream reviews of it, most of them were not very kind, because they were approaching it as a television show, not as the latest, iteration of a beloved franchise that they had grown up watching. I mean, they didn't have any pro Star Trek bias. They just came in and watched it as a show like they would any other show. And most of them said, yeah, this isn't very good. So the critical consensus was not super positive, and the fan census was I think very mixed. Even to this day, there are people that's where the whole the concept of, Star Trek shows don't get good until season 3, like that's where that comes from. because there were enough people that saw the first 2 seasons and thought, I don't know about this. And then it started to get really good in season 3. And then they said, oh, okay, that's more like it. You know? Zulu Romeo, come on, Scotland! At the time of this video stream, Scotland will be playing and presumably winning against Morocco in their second match at the World Cup, having stayed up till stupid o'clock to watch some of these matches kick off, and with memories of being forced to stay up till 3 a.m. to watch the 1994 final while on holiday in Sri Lanka. My question simply is this: what is the longest period of time you have intentionally stayed awake without sleep? I know I've stayed up for 24 hours straight a time or two in the past. I'm not sure if I've ever stayed up much longer than that. And it was probably either, because I was like, it was something to do when I worked an actual job, and I had to work late, and then I just decided to stay up, or I wasn't working and I was, maybe a teenager or a young adult, and I was hanging out with my friends and we were going out and staying up all night, and it was, but I don't have any specific memory of like, oh, the time I stayed up all night. I know I did it a few times. And I also know that I don't think I ever stayed up too much longer than a full 24 hours without sleep. Maybe like 25, 26, something like that. But I wasn't keeping track, and I wasn't, taking notes. But yeah, probably around 24 hours is the longest I've ever stayed up for one continuous period. Cast Iron Chaos, don't feel like whining about politics yet again, so I thought I'd tell you the very first hobby I discovered myself was Lord of the Rings. Oh, God. That was from the heart, too, by the way. That was from the heart. Was Lord of the Rings in the late 70s, around 6th grade. I was a Tolkien nerd for several years. Then I transitioned to a D&D nerd. Makes sense. After that, I was a comic book nerd, animation nerd, then a movie. Boy, you ran the gamut, didn't you? And today I'm a cooking nerd. Just wanted to make you feel both acceptance and regret, because I'm part of not one, but 2 hobbies you despise. Wonderful. And 2 you enjoy. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Enjoy yours as well. 2 hobbies I despise and 2 hobbies I enjoy. I like it. I like it. MW Ridger is probably not worthy to yield Mjolnir. I mean, if everybody could wield it, that's kind of beside the point, right? Or it goes against the point. Anyway, I'm admittedly not a huge Marvel guy. I've always gravitated toward DC. But today I came across an animated clip of Doctor Doom being surprised that he was not worthy to wield Mjolnir, which got me curious. How many different characters have been able to wield Mjolnir in Marvel? Apparently, according to the wiki, 387 characters have wielded the hammer. I'm not super invested in this, but from a writing perspective, doesn't that seem like too many? Kind of undercuts the whole impact, in my opinion. Well, sure, but keep in mind how many writers have written Thor or stories where Thor appears. I mean, if all of the stories featuring Thor's hammer had been written by a single author, and a really important part of the concept of that hammer is that only the truly worthy can lift it, and then you saw that 387 people had lifted it, like, yeah, that feels excessive. But considering how many different hands those characters have passed through over the years and how long that character has been around, I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but it's a little different when you're talking about a serialized character that has been written by so many different people. So it's not really that big of a deal. He has it like in the Marvel Comics cinematic universe, which is a little more contained and controlled and deliberately, created. It's nowhere near 387. I think it's like maybe 3. Right? Is it 3 that we've actually seen? Because it's Thor and Ultron, right? Ultron picked it up, didn't he? Or no, not Ultron. Vision picked it up, right? And then Captain America. So that's 3. Am I missing anybody? It's not, even if there's 1 or 2 more that I can't remember, nowhere close to 387. But also, like, Marvel Comics films have not been written by as many people as have been writing Marvel Comics over the years. Star Surfer. Recently watched a time loop movie, Palm Springs, in which a minor character chooses to stay in the loop because the outside world offers nothing but disappointment. Given the current climate we're living in, would you choose to remain in a pleasant though predictable loop rather than live in the real world that seems hell-bent on tearing asunder all that was once promising and beautiful? Um, the noble part of me says, no, I would not want to live in the time loop. I would want to face reality as it is. But there is a very large part of me that's like, oh no, I'll take the loop. Thanks. Like, I mean, in all honesty, I would like to think I would hope if I were ever presented that choice that I would be like, no, I would not the time loop. I'm gonna stay in the world and do my best to make it better, and I'm gonna fight the good fight and live the kind of life that other people have to live and make the best of it. And like, but the truth is, if the option is on the table, I might be taking the loop. We'll never know until I actually have that choice presented to me, which I will take. But there is a non-zero chance that I will take the loop. Andy Lawler says, Happy Father's Day to all the motherfuckers watching. Hey, Steve, what do you think is up with Star Trek's idea of energy barriers cordoning off the galaxy? I suspect your response will be because story. I'm no astrophysicist, but there's no line of demarcation. I'm okay with psychic powers and FTL travel and a Frenchman with a London accent, but I can only suspend disbelief so far. Thanks and have a great weekend, everybody. I mean, I'm completely fine with the idea of it because, yeah, as you say, because story, it creates an obstacle for the heroes to get past. It makes the frontier of the galaxy a lot more perilous than it really is. I as far as I know, if it were possible to fly in a spaceship to the edge of our galaxy and just keep going until you were out of the galaxy, whatever, however we define that, you could just do that. Like, as long as your ship was going fast enough to overcome the gravity that would otherwise keep you in, like, you can just go. Like, there's nothing other than gravity keeping you in. There is no special barrier around the edge of the galaxy. But for a show like Star Trek, they wanted it to feel like an even bigger deal. Like, oh, they're going outside the galaxy. Are they going to make it? Are they going to get through the barrier? And there's also the barrier, the great barrier at the center of the galaxy that they have to go through in Star Trek V. And again, same thing. It's just an invention to add a little bit of peril to the story. And I have no problem with it because I have never, ever entertained the illusion that Star Trek is hard science fiction. Like, it's just not. And it never has been. So if they want to say, yeah, there's an energy barrier at the edge of the galaxy and there's another one around the center of the galaxy, okay, that's fine with me. An anarcho-syndicalist who's tired of liberals and capitalism, some random geek, as if I didn't know. I just randomly decided to look through my bank records and credit card statements and see how much money I have given to my friends in need. My disabled friends like Joanna, Phoenix, Joey, Naz, and LQ. My friends who are disabled and can't work, and some who are on benefits and some who are denied. I've given about $14,000 since the beginning of this year, 2026, and that includes the fact that I'm unemployed since March 19th. That is about $538 a week for the last 26 weeks. Till next time, and here's the continuation from Geek, who is a patron and a member. Some random geek who is so frustrated by liberals who say that capitalism will always exist. And because I am just doing some math, if I am still working and only working 40 hours a week at my old pay of Seattle's minimum wage of $21.30 an hour and calculating what would be removed for taxes and benefits, I would get only $15.5 thousand net pay over 26 weeks this year. I worked a lot of overtime at my old job, but that also means I almost gave away just as much money as I make at my old job. Running out of space to make a point. Capitalism must end. CharityLinks.page. CharityLinks.page. Do not forget. I will remind you all of it at the end as well. But yes, CharityLinks.page to help out some friends of ours who Geek has been doing his best to help out, but could use some assistance from others as well. Donkey Hody. Hi, Steve. The algorithm is a hard thing to beat. I Googled info on rooftop solar panels in April, and I'm still seeing ads on YouTube about them. If I remember correctly, you inherited your home from your grandparents. I also inherited my home from my mother 7 years ago. I still get several inquiries a month, letters, texts, etc. If I was looking to sell, someday I might want to sell, so I don't want to tell these people to get lost. Have you had this problem of firms trying to buy your home? Not that specifically, no. I have been contacted about stuff in my grandmother's name, like about services, and there are still some organizations that I guess she subscribed to or that uh, she donated to in the past that will hit me up for donations that will send letters to the house because I guess nobody told them that she's been dead for 6 years and they're still like, hey, I wonder if she'll make a donation. So I get stuff like that and I don't really mind it, you know because I miss my grandparents and it's nice to get little reminders that even if it is purely just give us money, it's nice that it's nice that somebody's still sending an envelope with my granny's name on it. Um, but no, I haven't. Maybe once I got a solicitation from someone who was like, "You want to sell the house?" But no, thankfully, I have not been besieged by that. And here's another one from Don Quixote. Easy Patreon question. Do you consider Major League to be the funniest baseball comedy? And does it lose something when it's censored for television? For me, it's so much better with the cursing. Funniest? Yeah, I think I would probably have to go with Major League as funniest baseball comedy. I haven't watched it for a while, but I remember it being pretty funny. Yeah. And of course, any movie loses something when it's censored like that. Any movie. I mean, yes, Major League is a lot funnier with the cursing, not just because that it's cursing, but because that's the way it was written. That's the way it was meant to be. And when that is changed, almost always by people other than the original artists, or changed in a way that is obvious, that it's been dubbed over or whatever. Like it's just yes, any film that is subjected to that treatment is diminished, of course, and it's regrettable that it is ever done. Agent Meister, whose foresight has some insight in the light of hindsight. Nicely done. Peldor Joy, Steve, I enjoyed your video about the motion picture, but there's one aspect I think you didn't mention. Kirk's promotion to Admiral. Not a lot happens with it in TMP, but it's a subplot I really enjoyed in movies 2 through 4. Kirk is longing to return to the captain's chair of the Enterprise, whether he realizes it or not. What do you think of this aspect of Kirk? And can comparisons be made to Commander Riker's reluctance to give up his first officer role to accept a promotion to captain in TNG? Yes. I mean, it's different because we never really see that side of Kirk until after the fact. Kirk gets promoted, and then we see that he regrets it, whereas Riker just never takes the promotion until the very end, until the last movie that they make. So we never really see like Captain Riker, um, you know. But yeah, but it's very similar. I'm not sure if there was a conscious decision there, if the writers or Roddenberry himself, maybe when he was conceiving the character and kind of charting his direction, was thinking of that, consciously and saying, let's do a story with Riker, a long-term character arc where he's like the opposite of Kirk in this way. He doesn't accept promotion because he feels like the Enterprise is where he belongs. And even though he has been like a really career-minded guy up to this point, he doesn't want to lose this job because this job is more important to him than the rank and the prestige and just being a captain for the sake of it. And with Kirk, like he realizes that too late. So yeah, I mean they're kind of mirror images of each other. I don't know if that was intentional, but yeah, it is an interesting thing to observe. And yeah, I didn't really it does come up in the motion picture. Like McCoy and Kirk do have that conversation where McCoy is kind of wagging his finger at Kirk because Kirk, even though Kirk is still an admiral, he has taken command of the ship away from Captain Decker. And McCoy is sort of like, I know what you're doing. You want to still have the ship. Like you this isn't your job anymore. This is his ship and you're taking it away from him because you can't let it go. Like there's a little bit of that in the motion picture, but not a lot. It really doesn't kick in, like you say, until Star Trek 2. So that's probably why I didn't really mention it in my video. But no, it's one of the more interesting things they do with Kirk in the movies. And Darth, please prepare your best rant voice. Okay. Hey, Captain. For the last year, my company has been trying to force AI upon its workers. Don't you mean Copilot? No, because I'm not flying a damn plane. Just technobabble in my real life. They're also ignoring all problems, both current and potential, with nonsense catchphrases like, we don't want to get left behind. Everyone is pushing AI, and their reasons are getting lazier. Traitors, all of them. Traitors that would sell us for survival. Got better comebacks for such people? I mean, you see, it seems like you've got a pretty good handle on it. Like, I mean, it's sort of what I was referring to earlier in the previous question about can you be opposed to AI without opposing the advancement of technology in general? It wouldn't be so bad if the AI programs that are being pushed on us could actually do the things that we're told they can do. I mean, even to this day, the one that I interact with the most on a personal basis is Gemini, which is the one that was created by Google. And you would think, given the fact that it was created by Google, the company that is most famous for creating a search engine, that if you ask the AI created by Google to look something up for you, that it would be pretty factually reliable. And it's less reliable than you would think, because like I've tested it out, I've played with it, and it gets, look, if you use it as kind of like a souped up search engine, and you ask it a question and it'll basically Google stuff for you. But there's this weird thing I've noticed with Gemini where it will research a topic for you and come back with a bunch of information. And a lot of the information is accurate. At least the information that based on my own pre-existing knowledge, I can verify, it looks mostly accurate to me, but it cites its sources, which again sounds like a good thing. Like, oh, it's citing its sources so you can follow it up on your own. But sometimes it will cite a source that makes no reference to the fact that it is being cited to support. Like, it'll tell you something and then it'll give you a little footnote that gives you a link to follow it up, and you go to the source to follow it up, and there's nothing in that source about about the line in the document how does that work? So, and there's little things like that just make it make it unreliable. Like, you just can't, and that's a fairly basic function. You just can't count on it. And I've read a lot of articles and pieces written by like teachers who are struggling with being pushed to use AI in the classroom. And they say that like some of the applications that it's being recommended for, it's so bad at that it actually makes more work, because you tell an AI, write some word problems for my math class. And then you, as the teacher, have to actually go back and manually verify that all of these word problems that the AI created make sense and are asking the kinds of question that you want to ask to align with what you're teaching your students. And it just makes more work for you. It would be quicker if you, as the teacher, just made it up yourself. There's all kinds of problems like that are just incredibly frustrating. And it's like, in the rush to not be left behind, you're pushing out tools that are clearly not ready to be doing the things we're told we're supposed to use them for. And it's just making everything way harder than it needs to be. When you get it to the point where it is reliable and it can successfully do the thing that we're supposed to tell it to do, then yeah, absolutely. Let me see it. Let me do it. Let me see how it works. Let me test it out. Hopefully it's reliable. But until it's reliable, why is it being released to the public at all? Like, why can I even use it at this point if it's not able to consistently do the thing that it's supposed to do? It really doesn't make any sense. Caitlin L., who actually submitted this one on the Thursday in your time zone anyway. What's your favorite thing to cook? Like, properly cook? I've got a few favorite soups: minestrone, bacon, and lentil, and I also like shakshuka, sloppy Joe, chili. I sometimes make my own pasta sauce. Ooh. Recently, I've experimented with whatever stew with squash, lentils, beans, sweet potato, rice, vegetables, and a meat. Also, could you indulge me by showing, and then there's a link to something I'll show you in a second. My very first Ask Away had this, but I didn't ask in time. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. First, um, I make a chili recipe that I absolutely love to cook. I make it in a slow cooker. So I just start it in the morning and just leave it there all day. And by the evening, it's done and it's perfect and beautiful. Um, I also, since I started being mostly vegetarian, I have experimented with several recipes for like black bean burgers. And I have a recipe for a black bean burger that I really like to make that I haven't actually made for a long time. Um, but that I really enjoy and that turns out very well. So stuff like that. And I mean, like if I feel I haven't I've been skipping breakfast regularly for quite a while now, but when I do feel like breakfast and I have, like the stuff in the house to cook, I mean, I like cooking an old-fashioned sort of standard American breakfast of, some eggs over easy and some toast and maybe throw in if I'm cheating that day, maybe a few strips of bacon, or if I'm not cheating, maybe some like um if I can find like a decent, imitation bacon, like a vegan bacon, which there actually are some not terrible options available now, but stuff like that, cooking breakfast or black bean burger or chili. Now, as for the image that Caitlin wanted me to share with everybody, this is it. It is a Hilda comic, and it's too big to show you the whole thing at once, so I'm just going to scroll through it. And so it's Hilda and Woodman, who, if you were watching with us when Dana and I were watching the Hilda animated series on Trek Reluctantly, Woodman was my favorite character. So it's Hilda and Woodman, and Hilda's saying, "So I can't help noticing that you don't have a neck. How exactly does your head stay on?" And Woodman says, "Concentration, focus. As long as I'm thinking about it to at least some extent, it tends to stay put." Of course, it's. And Hilda says, "What happens if I tickle you?" And Woodman goes, "Hey," and he starts laughing, and then his head pops off and goes flying down the hillside and over the creek. And Hilda's chasing after it, and it splashes in the water. And Hilda says, "I'll save you." And she dives in and she grabs the woodman's head. But then she realizes that she can't swim. And the woodman reaches and hands her a stick, just like Clark Kent saving Lois Lane from drowning in the Niagara River in Superman 2. And he pulls her in, and she shakes herself off and hands the woodman his head back. And he says, "Gee, thanks." Delightful. Delightful, Caitlin. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let me see. The Grumpy Monkey. How now, Steve? One of my first Superman comics was a facsimile of 1986's Man of Steel by John Byrne. I eventually got the trade paperback of the entire series, and it is by far my favorite origin story for Clark and Company. I also loved how elements from it were used in Superman stories for the next 2 decades. What do you think of Byrne's Man of Steel, and what is your favorite Superman origin story from the comics? By the way, what is the most recent Superman comic you've read, be it for the first time or as a reread? Um, I'm getting ready before too long to reread Man of Steel. Um, because I'm going to do a best Superman ever video about it coming up. Um, so I'm going to reread that soon, but I haven't reread it for a while. So I mean, I remember liking it the last time I read it, which is a long time ago, but I remember liking the Byrne Man of. I mean, John Byrne himself as a person is extremely problematic and has some very, very shitty politics. But I remember thinking his Superman, specifically the Man of Steel miniseries, was pretty good. And I mean, the artwork is great. Byrne is a fantastic artist. Um, but I'll have to get back to you after I've recently reread it. What is my favorite Superman origin story from the comics? Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's not really an origin story, but I mean, I love Superman for All Seasons. It's not really an origin story, um, but it's kind of a young Superman story, not a Superboy story, but kind of a young Superman story. But as for what's the most recent comic I've read, I guess the last one I read for the last best Superman ever video, which was the Sandman Saga comics from the 70s, Denny O'Neil's Sandman Superman run from the 70s. I think that was the last Superman comic I reread. I haven't reread anything since then. But it's about to be Man of Steel. I don't know if that's Man of Steel is not going to be the next best Superman ever. I'm going to do one in between, but in the next few months, I'm going to be rereading Man of Steel. Carl the Tolkien nerd. Hi, Steve. I absolutely adore Batman, as you know. Which voice actor captures the spirit of Batman best? For me, it's Kevin Conroy, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. You can include film adaptations of Batman too, if you want. Kara. I mean, Conroy is the easy choice because he's sort of everybody's consensus pick. And Conroy is fantastic as Batman. I can't remember his name, but the actor who they did a couple of, I think actually the BBC did some Batman radio dramas that were released over here on CD. They did one for Nightfall, and then they did another one that I can't remember the title of. But the actor who did the voice of Batman in that, I've always thought very highly of, and he does it's completely different than what Conroy does. Like it's not a gruff, low Batman voice. Like it's more of a standard kind of radio superhero voice, but very authoritative, and it suits Batman. It's not the Batman voice we've gotten used to from Conroy, but I liked it a lot. Maybe it wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea because you're just used to, your ear is sort of tuned to either Kevin Conroy or someone who is doing kind of a Kevin Conroy type of thing. But I really liked the voice from the Batman Nightfall audio drama, and I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. But yeah, I would nominate that. And another one from Kara, who says, "Hi, Steve. On a related note, and just for humor, which actor did you look at and think this is the worst Batman ever?" Thanks again, Kara. At the time, George Clooney. I have since changed that opinion. I think I was unfair to Clooney as Batman. Not that he was great, and not that his movie was good, because it wasn't. Batman and Robin is still an awful movie. But it's not really George Clooney's fault. And he's doing the best he can, and he's giving a performance that is tonally appropriate to that film. I mean, he knows what movie he's in, and he's doing what was asked of him. It's not all his fault. But at the time, I would have said Clooney, sure, because Batman and Robin was awful. Since then, I have come to the opinion that Batman Forever is actually a worse film than Batman and Robin. They're both bad. I dislike them both. But I was somewhat surprised to discover several years ago when I rewatched them after not having watched them for a long time that I thought Batman Forever was noticeably worse than Batman and Robin. So might I say Val Kilmer? I don't know. It feels wrong because I'm such a big fan of Val Kilmer's other work. I think Val Kilmer in general was an amazing actor, but was his Batman very good? I don't know. I don't think it was. So either Val Kilmer or George Clooney would be my worst Batman ever. JDC, hi Steve, got a favorite time travel story? Cheers. I mean, Looper's pretty good. I mean, obviously, like Back to the Future and The City on the Edge of Forever. That Ray Bradbury short story, The Sound of Thunder. That's a classic. We read that in school. I've always remembered that. That's another good one. Yeah, I think I'm out. I don't know. What was the fucking what's the time travel story? Is it Time and Again with David Warner as Jack the Ripper and Malcolm McDowell as H.G. Wells? directed by Nicholas Meyer. I think it's Time and Again. That's a good one too. Rusty Ronan, yo, Steve, Dodgers Orioles series this weekend. You plan to check out any games? Good opportunity to watch Ohtani play. I mean, certainly not in person, no, and probably not on TV either. I'm just not going to have the time. I'm almost always busy on the weekends because that's when I shoot my videos, and Saturday evening and usually a good chunk of Sunday I'm editing whatever is going to be the Monday video. So unfortunately, no, I'm probably not going to have a chance to check out a game, not even on TV. But go Orioles. Nothing against the Dodgers, but go Orioles. Simon Moody with the 250th around the corner. If you were asked to design a display / presentation to represent your beloved home state, what would it be other than a booth where people can hug the state flag? It would be a human-sized crab that people could interact with and ask questions. It would be a crab that would be like an expert on the specific state history of Maryland. So you could just walk up. It would basically be a crab-shaped AI, except it would work, and it would actually know the answers to questions. So you'd walk up and you would say, hey, Mr. Crab, what's the name of the former vice president of the United States who was from Maryland? And the crab would say, Spiro T. Agnew, but like in a crabby voice. I'm not sure what a crab talking human language would sound like, but I'm making this up as I go along. But there's definitely going to be a giant crab that can be interactive and respond to questions. Deminox via Patreon now, too. I can't believe nobody else has done this. I, Steve Shives, being of sound mind, hereby leave my entire Star Trek doll collection, not action figures, they are dolls, to the user who goes by Deminox. I also leave him my autographed Deep Space Nine Blu-ray collection under the provision that he spends one night in a haunted house of my choosing, with his only companion being the sentient Commander Riker poster. Reading this out loud on the air constitutes this as my living will. It's a shame that Dana is not here for this one tonight, because this is all her fault. Because when Dana very kindly reminds everybody about these live streams at the end of our Wednesday live streams together, she always says, instead of saying, hey, if you're a patron or a member, you can ask Steve a question, she says, you can make Steve say stuff. Just write something to Steve, and he'll read whatever you say on the show. And here we are. I have just legally given away my Star Trek doll collection, and I guess I'm going to have to get an autographed Deep Space Nine Blu-ray. That doesn't even exist. I'm going to have to figure out, because now I'm legally bound. The Commander Riker picture is going to be great. You don't have to worry about that. He's really cool. Like, you're going to be glad that he's there when you're spending a night in that haunted house. Isaiah, happy Juneteenth, Steve. Happy Juneteenth to you, my friend. To mark this day, I began Ken Burns' The Civil War docuseries. The American Civil War, while I know a lot about it, is not my top research topic, considering the major impacts that it continues to have on our country, especially African Americans like myself. I know you don't believe in ghosts, but when you visit Antietam, do you feel a presence when you visit? Like, does the gravity of such an event in our history ever get to you? Well, first of all, I just rewatched episode 1 of the Civil War recently as well. I mean, I've seen it a million times, but yeah, I rewatched it the other day. I felt like watching the Civil War for some reason, and I watched the first episode, and I'll probably try to sneak in the second episode at some point here before too long. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you are enjoying it. Yes. I mean, yeah, not necessarily a presence. I've never felt like a presence of a spirit or something on Antietam battlefield, but yes, almost every time I go there, I have a moment of awareness of what happened there, of the significance of that, and of the horror of it, the violence of it. How many people were killed that day? Yeah, I feel that a lot. The presence is very noticeable, and it's it's a rhetorical presence. It's like it's the weight of knowledge, and of knowing what this place is here for and what the significance is of it. But yes, very much do I feel that. Yeah, almost every time I go there. Air One Fire, FCA. Hi, Steve. I saw He Man, and I think I'll give it a mild not recommend. Fan service, very unfocused, great music and punching, but now I want to see Odyssey, Supergirl, and really want to see Brand New Day. What movies are you looking forward to? I just saw Spider Man 2, and it's now my favorite superhero movie, probably tied with The Batman, maybe. What do you think? I think I soured on Nolan, afraid to rewatch my beloved Interstellar now. P.S. Routine and diet are going very well. Best wishes. Well, I'm very happy to hear that last part. Good on you. Keep it up. Um, I mean, if you're soured on Nolan, maybe seeing the Odyssey will reawaken that because he directed the Odyssey. If you're excited about that, maybe that will rehabilitate Nolan in your eyes a bit. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing all of those. I have bought advance tickets to all of them already. I've got my tickets for the Odyssey, for Supergirl, for Spider-Man, Brand New Day. What else have I got? I think those are the only ones that I've got still to come. And a special anniversary screening of Citizen Kane. I'm going to see a special anniversary an 85th anniversary screening of Citizen Kane. I'm really looking forward to that too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to all of those. Yeah. I mean, Supergirl is next week, so I'm really hyped for that. Spider-Man and gods, I love Spider-Man 2. If you're saying Spider-Man 2 is maybe your favorite superhero movie, I think that is a very good choice. I think that is a very good choice. It's a it's a beautiful movie. Such a beautiful movie. Although it is Spider hyphen Man. Spidey would want me to correct you on that. It's not Spider-Man one word, it's Spider hyphen Man. But it's a masterpiece. Um Here's the first of two questions from Russell. Hey, Steve, happy Juneteenth and Friday to you. So, I got a question about characters from one show appearing in others, like Worf TNG DS9 or, say, Angel Cast that originally appeared on Buffy, even those main characters on Buffy that guest starred on Angel. Why is their character more serious in one show as opposed to the other? An example would be Worf seems calm and a skillful fighter on DS9 and more impulsive on TNG. Same actors playing the same part. Shouldn't they be consistent? What do you think I'm going to say? um, I don't think so. They don't have to be. If the creators, if the creators who are making those shows choose to present them as consistent with their portrayal in the other show, then I think they have every right to do that. And you know, there's no reason why that wouldn't necessarily work. But if they want to change their presentation a little to be more in line with the tone of the show that they are actually in, then I have no problem with that. Like, as far as I'm concerned, once Worf joined Deep Space Nine, that character belonged to Deep Space Nine. And the creators of Deep Space Nine should have been allowed and were allowed to treat that character however they felt he needed to be treated to best serve their show. And if they felt, which apparently they did, that they needed to bring him along and change him a little from how he was on TNG, and in Worf's case, it was for the better. It made him not only a more interesting character, but also, like, within universe, a far more competent character than he had been portrayed as usually on TNG. And I think they had every right to do that because it's fiction. Like, it's fiction. They can do whatever they want. And while I do think that consistency is something that should be maintained within a particular work, like the bigger the bubble gets, the less important consistency is to me. Like, consistency within a single episode of a show, very, very important. Consistency within a single season of a show, also very important. Consistency within a series, yes, important. Consistency within a franchise that contains a bunch of different series and movies and stuff, not as important to me. Like, I really don't care. Consistency in, like, something like a comic book character where it's been written and drawn by hundreds or maybe thousands of people across many, many years or decades, like, really not important at all. So, but no, I think it should be it's up to the creators of the thing that we're watching right now. If a character from Buffy guest stars on an episode of Angel and the creators of Angel say, let's make Willow a little more serious this time. That's their right to do that. So no, that it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't think that the creators of this thing are necessarily beholden to the creators of the other thing. And here's another one from Russell, and this is the last patron and member question. Russell says, I recently watched Saving Private Ryan, and the realism what soldiers endure during a war is painful to watch. Now, while the characters are fictional, World War II was not. Neither was the Vietnam War or the war in Iraq. Many of my family members served the military, including my dad during the Vietnam War. Okay, Steve, I support our troops. I do not support our political leaders who make the choices and take no risks. So why do certain people on the left have a problem with the military or who support the troops? I think it's a matter of what the details are. I think a lot of people on the left don't support the military because of the way that we use the military in this country, because of the way the military is deployed, because of what the mission of the military is. I think also a lot of people just naturally associate the military with violence and with, the projection of state authority, which is fair. Like that's one of the main jobs of the military is to project state authority, and they just have a problem with that fundamentally. Maybe they're an anarchist and they just don't believe there ought to be a state at all. So they're going to have a problem with the military as an institution that carries out the interests and preserves the power of the state using force. Like they're going to have a problem with that. So there are ideological reasons. And also maybe there are people that just have a grudge or have a chip on their shoulder or just generally just think it's a shitty thing. Myself personally, I have had family members who served in the military. My father was in the Navy. His father was in the Navy. I've had multiple uncles who have served in various branches of the military, cousins who have served in the military. So, I mean, I'm not anti them, and I support very much treating members of the military rightly and humanely, and paying them a fair wage, and giving them access to health care, and giving them access to all of the benefits that they were promised when they signed up, and never, ever, ever deploying them where they will be asked to kill or possibly be killed unless it is absolutely necessary. And it is in the vital and urgent interests of the United States and not just something that the president felt like doing, So, I mean, but at the same time, I have serious reservations and misgivings about the military and about certain things it does, so it's a very mixed bag. Like, I'm not going to just come out and say, I support our troops and make some kind of blanket statement, because it's a lot more complicated than that. And I think that's where you might run into problems with people on the left, because I'm sure there are people on the left that, don't like the military for illegitimate reasons, but more often than not, it's an ideological objection. It's a philosophical objection. It's a misgiving about things the military does or ways in which the military is used. And that's what they have a problem with. Not like they have some, personal grudge against the troops themselves. And that's it. Now let me restart the live chat viewer, which is our regular ceremony here at this point in the show. And once that is restarted, it'll be time for a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. And this will be a Stuffy and Friends short that I actually just shot and edited a few days ago. I wrote it a while back, but in terms of the actual video itself, it's brand new. It's brand new. Geek, that's a good point. The poverty draft thing. Yeah, there are, because of the way the economy works and the way American society works. Yeah, there are a lot of people. It's disproportionately low income people who are kind of pushed via economic factors to join the military, because for a lot of people, the military is their best option in terms of a career and in terms of improving their station in life. And That's not necessarily the military's fault, although there is a lot of evidence of predatory recruiting practices that the military does send recruiters out to those neighborhoods specifically to find those people who might be desperate enough to join because they don't think they have a better option. But that's also more broadly a problem with our whole society, not just the military. But anyway, back to Stuffy and friends. What do you say? So yeah. Oh, there's Stuffy. Hi, Stuffy. I clicked the wrong button. Glad to see you're with us. Hi. I'm just watching like I always do. Sorry. I didn't expect to be on camera. That's okay. I just, as I said, I clicked the wrong button, but Stuffy's always watching. Anyway, and now we're about to watch Stuffy. This will go up as its own standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow, but because you are watching right now, you get to see it before anybody else. So please do enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short. Where do the calories in protein water come from?
My guess would be the protein.
But it's water. Whoa.
What is it?
I just got an email telling me my Aunt Nadine is dead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't think I ever met her.
We weren't close. What the hell is this? The email is from something called the Dead Yet app. What is that?
It's one of those dead man switch apps. You have to interact with it every so often, or it will automatically send a message to a chosen contact to let them know that you have possibly died. They're apparently becoming more popular with people who live alone and don't want to remain undiscovered for weeks or months after they die.
Why would you even care? You're dead.
What does the email say specifically?
Your family member, Nadine Bernauer, has failed to respond to prompts from the Dead Yet app and has most likely died. Please take steps to confirm her demise and contact the appropriate authorities. How is this my job?
For whatever reason, she chose you. This is a responsibility that you should take seriously.
I know exactly why she chose me.
Why?
For this exact moment. To inconvenience me by making her death my burden.
Why would she do that?
Because she hates me. Hated me.
But why would she hate you?
How should I know? Why would anybody hate me? You know who I hate right now? Whoever gave her my email address. When I find out who that was, somebody's going to be getting an email from their Am I Dead Yet app pretty soon after. I think I've got her address in here somewhere.
Are you going to her house? I can go with you if you want.
Fuck no. But thanks, that's really nice of you to offer. Here it is. Yes, I'd like to request a welfare check on a relative. I just got an email from an app telling me she's dead. Nadine Bernauer. That's right. It's 906 Cedar Lawn Parkway. Thank you. Oh, no, you don't have to call me back. I'm good. She's lucky I did that much for her. After what she got me for my 5th birthday.
It must have been pretty bad if you're still carrying a grudge over it 40 years later.
Oh, it was.
What happened? Did you ask for a transformer and she got you a GoBot?
No, I asked for a GoBot and she got me a convertor.
How awful for you.
Who does that to a child? Anyway, hey, live chat. All right. You know what's funny about that? I tinkered with the ending to that one a bunch. Like I wrote most of it a few weeks ago, but I was like, tinkering with the ending to that one up until the day I shot it, I think. So hopefully it turned out okay. I think it turned out okay. Anyway, yeah, and yes, I did. The Q&A feature on the live chat is enabled, so I will be taking questions from that. But first, there were a couple of super chats that were dropped in earlier. Windwalker 5765, thank you very much for your contribution, my friend. Says, Trek no babble. We love problem solving. See Apollo 13 or Castaway. It wavers as the science gets more fictional. The Martian, Hail Mary. By Trek, it's too completely made up and convenient. I think that's part of the problem with technobabble, but also it's just the presentation. I mean, you mentioned Project Hail Mary, and yeah, I mean that is firmly in the sci-fi realm, but the movie does a good enough job of making the problems that they're tackling comprehensible to us, so that it doesn't feel like, oh, they're just talking about, it's just a made up problem that's being solved by made up science. Like that's the problem with technobabble. It doesn't have any dramatic weight because you have no idea what they're even doing. So why does it mean anything that they did something? You know what I mean? Um, but I agree. Like the further you get away from reality, the more difficult it can get. But the most important thing to remember is like the audience needs to be able to understand on a basic level what the problem the characters are facing is and what they are trying to do about it. And a lot of times technobabble just completely obscures that. And also, there's a super chat from Debbie Bannister. Thank you very much, Debbie. Says Lucille Ball was a big fan of Star Trek. She also went to bat for that show to remain on the air. What a great endorsement that was. Yeah, she was in. I mean, because it was her studio, Desilu, that produced Star Trek, and Lucy was basically was the one who gave it the green light to go into production. So yeah, I think sometimes Trekkies overstate just how important she was to Star Trek because it's just, I mean, as you said in your post there, Debbie, I mean, it's just the idea of, oh, Lucille Ball, like I Love Lucy being the one responsible for Star Trek, like that's a really cool thing for Star Trek to have, in its history. And it's not quite that, you know, big of a deal, but it is still cool. There is definitely a Lucy Star Trek connection. And as a fan of both, I agree. That's really cool. Let me go to the questions tab and see. Boy, Geralta Trekkie is full of questions. Geralta Trekkie says, concerning AI, 2 years ago, I asked, why does character X kill character Y in fanfiction Z? But the fun thing is, that didn't happen. But the AI came up with a reason. I think they're just people pleasers. They're just people pleasers. They just like, well, fuck, what should I say? And also, they don't really know anything. Like they're still mostly just really, really sophisticated predictive text machines. So like, which is a problem that they don't actually know anything. Delta Trekkie also says, AI 2, I just asked Grok, why did Tony kill Calvin Nathan Cat? And the only answer is he didn't. But Grok said, well, maybe because of grief. It's trying. That's what the AI says. Tony Donazzo kills Calvin Nathan Cat, Cal, in a moment of grief, rage, and perceived justice after believing Cal murdered Leroy Jethro Gibbs. It's just wrong. You know? Cynical Optimist says, any opinions on the rich gentrifying working class foods, e.g., taking dishes like fried chicken, burgers, fish and chips, etc., and overcomplicating them with bougie ingredients and cooking processes? I mean, I think it's kind of silly. I think it's kind of silly and kind of elitist. The idea that, well, the food, the way the common people usually cook it and usually eat it, that's not good enough for us. We're going to elevate it. I think there's a point where that crosses the line from being innovative and creative and just being kind of, condescending. Deralta Trekkie says, so your team won against Australia today. Are you interested in soccer? To be precise, in the championship? Not even slightly. Not even a little bit. Michael Handeline says, did you watch the start of season 3 of My Adventures with Superman? What did you think of their take on Kara? I like it. I like it too. I thought it was a good episode. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Geralta Trekkie says, what's your opinion on the TV series Elsbeth? Never watched it. Geralta Trekkie says, what's your opinion on the Death of Superman storyline? It was all right. Went on a little long, looking back on it, like with hindsight, probably one of the better major crossovers like that, because I don't think they got a whole lot better from there. But I mean, not one of my favorite Superman stories, just because it's the story is kind of secondary to the event of it. Deralta Trekkie also says, compared to Batman v Superman, the Batman and Robin is a freaking Oscar movie. Yeah, you're right. It's And also, Dr. Trekkie also asked about Civil War. I never read the Civil War comics. And my most favorite DC event comic, I thought the crossover they ran through the Batman titles back in like 96, 97, I think it was 97, called Legacy, I thought was pretty good. Darlton Trekkie also says, concerning supporting the troops, what's your opinion about Stargate not being continued by Amazon MGM? I could not care less. I honestly don't care. And Darlton Trekkie also says, concerning Angel, I think of Angel 1 and I think of Ariel, the actress who played Mike on MacGyver and Bonnie on Knight Rider. By the way, you think they did Mike dirty? I mean, no. Considering, both episodes that she appears in are really good episodes. And I mean, not everybody gets to live forever, especially if you're a recurring character of MacGyver. Some random geek says, should I talk to liberals about politics? Most just block after interacting with me, including some of your viewers. I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? If it's just getting on your nerves and you're not getting anywhere, then why beat your head against the wall? If you feel like you're trying to accomplish something, then yeah, I guess stick with it. But if all it's doing is just annoying you and having people block you, like why keep beating your head against the wall? Caitlin says, feel free to ignore. Too late. Did any opinions strike you about my recent stew method, which is different every time? No, I think it's really interesting. I've done stuff like that before, where you just kind of use whatever you have, and throw it together and season it, and try to make it into a cohesive thing. I think it's kind of cool. And it reminds me of like the idea of like a forever stew, where you're always like adding to it and bringing in fresh ingredients, and there's always like it never completely goes away because you use the last remnant as the base for the next batch, kind of like a sourdough. You're always adding a little bit of the previous version to the next version. And yeah, my chili is really good. My favorite way to do it is it's usually a 3 or a 4 bean chili, and one of the beans is always garbanzo beans or chickpeas that I crush into a paste and then stir it in, and it mimics the texture of ground beef because I make a vegetarian chili, and the crushed garbanzo beans mimics the texture of ground beef. The last time I made it, I used textured vegetable protein instead of the garbanzo beans, and that was fine. Like, I liked it, and it also mimicked the ground beef texture a little bit, but it was a little too granular. It doesn't soften as much. It does soften, but it doesn't have the same quality that the garbanzo beans do. But yeah, my chili is good. I like my chili. Sinister Intelligence, Isaiah says, I don't like the military because of all the harm done to the global south. I think people have the right to feel put off by that. Yes, absolutely, of course. Zulu Romeo says, I think Stuffy gets cuter every episode. Where can I get one? I have no idea. I got Stuffy from a thrift store, from an antique store. I have no idea, like, where he comes from, what his toy line is, or anything. I really don't know. Geralta Trekkie says, when hearing Desilu, I remember her son, Desi Arnaz Jr., being Walter Nebuchar on Automan. Did you ever watch this show? Nope. Cynical Optimist says, I recommended this a couple weeks back, but have you started watching Legion yet? If not, you really should. I have not. John Stewart 2814 says, have you ever watched any version of Imitation of Life? Both versions I've seen are really emotional. I have not. Ex Demonox says, I asked the writer of Ernest and the Dreamstone, the comic endorsed by the Varney family and considered official, and yes, you can still pre-order. I can't wait to read it. Have you ever been to Ernest Fest? No, I have not. Alta Trekkie says, so what was this? What did you call it? Contractor? This rip-off Transformer GoBot thing? Is it just made up for the sketch, or does it really exist? Convertor. It did exist. Yes. It was it was like GoBots. It was perceived as like a ripoff of Transformers. GoBots technically isn't a ripoff of Transformers. It's just a toy that does the same kind of thing that just didn't get as popular as Transformers. Convertors were really, really inexpensive. Never really caught on. Never caught on even as much as GoBots did. But no, yes, convertors were a real thing. They were also like a transforming robot type toy. I did not make them up for the sketch. Some random geek says, I mean, other liberals say that fighting against capitalism is like banging your head against a wall. So I guess it's the same for talking to liberals about politics. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you're not getting anywhere, you know, like if you're having the same experience over and over again, and maybe at least give yourself a break, you know. Um, Zulu Romeo says, "What about the Iran deal thing? What a shit show, eh?" Yeah, like what deal? That's my question. Oh, they signed a memorandum of understanding, which is apparently not binding at all, and also the terms that they're supposedly agreeing to, most of which still need to be negotiated, are basically going to just put things back the way they were before Trump started the war to begin with. Only arguably the authoritarian regime in charge of Iran is even more entrenched now than it was before, and more, well situated in the region than it was before. Like, good job. You started a war, and at best, things are going to just go back to the way they were before. And at worst, they're going to be worse than they were before. So no, it's a shit show, and there's not even a deal yet. Not officially. Yeah, it's a shit show. Bob Sessions. Thank you, Philip. Bob Sessions. Yes, thank you so much for looking that up. I thought it was Bob something, but I didn't want to say because I couldn't remember the last name and I didn't want to get it wrong. Bob Sessions. Dralta Trekkie says, imagine Stuffy meeting Buzz Lightyear and Woody in Toy Story, say 6, 7, 8,000. How would that work out? Oh, I think they would love Stuffy. I think they would love Stuffy. Although the rules for Stuffy and Friends are a little different because the Toy Story characters only ever talk when they're just amongst themselves. Like when people are around, they're just regular toys. They don't talk or move. Whereas Stuffy and Friends, talk to me all the time, and I'm a human being. So the rules are a little different. All right, let me cut back over to the live chat here. See what I've been missing. Stephen G. Clenard is correct. I am a DC Comics guy. That is correct. Darth Eddie said, I recently introduced a very good friend to Blue Velvet a month later, and he's still scarred and confused by Frank Booth. He'd already seen Eraserhead, but not Blue Velvet. I did a good thing. Yes, you did. Yeah, nothing really prepares you for Blue Velvet, does it? It's such a great movie, but it is so just unashamedly bizarre, you know? And I mean, my Dennis Hopper as Booth is like one of the most fearless performances I've ever seen. Yeah, nothing can really prepare you for it. Okay, yeah, Caitlin, try out the crushed chickpeas. Yeah, I bet. How was the corn mince good? Because corn is pretty good as far as imitation meat. I've found. Simon Moody, Contractor, the robot that dies a little every time Trump rips up a deal. Oh, it's good. It's good. Yes, it was. Yeah, Stephen Clenard is correct. It was a robot that could convert into a slightly different robot. Yeah, exactly. Bean 525 said it's like one of those toy lines you find at the dollar. That's exactly what convertors were. Exactly. Yeah, Zulu. Yeah, I was thinking about that today. Remember when Trump started the war with Iran? One of the first things he said was, "People of Iran, when we're finished, take over your government." Nope, that didn't happen. That didn't even come close to happening. And it's the same government that massacred protesters earlier this year. And now not only is it still in charge, but it's emboldened because it's just withstood a war effort from the United States. Yeah, no, it's a fucking nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. Dorota Trekkie says, "What do you think about the Supergirl trailer and the Strange New World trailer?" Well, the most recent I think all of the Supergirl trailers I've seen have been excellent. Have been really, really good. The most recent one I saw, I liked a lot. The Strange New Worlds trailer, I thought was good. I've got my fingers crossed. Hopefully, it will be a return to form after a very underwhelming third season for that show. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to Supergirl. You know, again, you don't know you can't go by the trailer. You don't know until you've seen the movie. But I am optimistic about Supergirl. I'm really looking forward to seeing it next week. Back over here to the questions, see if there's I think a few more have trickled in. Yeah, Sinister Intelligence says 20,000 plus in Antietam in one day. Yeah, bloodiest single day in American history. X-Demonog says, "Can't wait for Supergirl, but I'm upset to hear that they're cutting it down. People complain about the villain, but you don't need a galaxy threat for the villain to be compelling." I haven't heard that. I'm not really sure why. I mean, you mean they're trimming the movie, like they're cutting stuff out of the movie? I mean, I will have no idea what effect that will have, because I haven't seen any cut of the movie. So the first cut of the movie the first cut of the movie I see is going to be, the only one. So I'm going to have to go by that. 255 AD says, "When the Iran war started, did you predict Trump would just declare victory however it ended?" I may have said that publicly. I know I definitely thought it, because that's just what he does. He does that for everything. That's what he always does. He starts something, he usually fucks it up, or it doesn't go right, or it turns into a fucking disaster, and then he just declares victory and says, "We did it. We fixed it. All right, on to the next thing." Like, that's what he always does. Some random geek says, "I seen He-Man. I actually like it." All right, good, awesome. I'm glad. Dorota Trekkie says, "You think a Mask movie would ever work?" I mean, it might work creatively. It might make a good movie, but I don't know if they're ever going to make it, because I don't know if Mask is as well known of a property as Transformers. Like, the only reason commercially to make a Mask movie would be because you thought people who were fans of the old show and toys would go to see it. But I don't know if it's well remembered enough. Same reason why they haven't made a Thundar the Barbarian movie, because not that many people remember it. Darth Eddie says, "The soundtrack to Blue Velvet is one I've been going back to recently. It's both elegant and beautiful and deeply dark and ominous at the same time." Oh, David Lynch was so good at soundtracks, wasn't he? Like, his movies almost always have incredibly memorable soundtracks that just burrow into you. Thank you for the tip on using corn mints for my chili, Caitlin. I'll throw it in. I won't leave it in all day if I ever try it. Blade Winter says, "I heard Spider Noir is good." I liked it. I liked it quite a lot. Yeah. It has the same problem that a lot of streaming series have, where I think it would have been better if they had just made a movie. But I was entertained by it. It has some really good scenes and some really good moments, great performances, really good cast. And I mostly watched the black and white version, and it looked fantastic. They did a really good job with it. I watched one episode in the true hue color that's like made to mimic like Technicolor, and it looked really good. It looked really good, but the black and white looked amazing. Power Rangers Donnie says after 74 seasons, Hockey Night in Canada leaves the CBC but remains on Sportsnet. Wow. After 74 seasons. That's unbelievable. Geralta Trekkie says, you wouldn't believe it. The Snyder idiots are still bitching and moaning about the Snyderverse and are predicting that Supergirl will flop. Bunch of losers. Oh, but you're wrong. I would absolutely believe it. And I do. Every little tiny thing that happens, there are Snyder bros that are still so obsessed with the Snyderverse coming back that every little tiny thing they latch onto as proof that Warner Brothers is about to shit can the DCU and bring Zack Snyder back and bring back they're dead enders. They're Snyderverse dead enders. They're never gonna let it go. They're more attached to their bullshit than the fucking QAnon people were. And I think it's a lot of the same people. And they're more attached to the Snyderverse than to the QAnon shit. Yeah, Caitlin, Corn Grounds. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah. I believe they have that at my local supermarket. 255 AD says, if I created a Transformers ripoff, I'd make the tagline Shapeshifters Mechanoids Incognito. Ooh, makes it sound so fancy. Stephen Glenard, the first season of Hockey Night was pretty rough. Well, they say it takes about 30 seasons before it gets good. Some Random Geek says, what is your reaction to someone saying Jessie Gender is a capitalist? How much does she profit off of her movie? What is your reaction to that statement? I mean, are people just supposed to starve to death? I mean, it's one thing to critique the system. I'm all for critiquing the system and saying capitalism, like as a system, is bad and we should either radically reform it or do away with it and replace it with something better. But you have to acknowledge that we're all stuck in it for the moment. And given the fact that we're all stuck in it for the moment, how is it not the best possible outcome for an artist to profit from their work? Like, what's Jessie supposed to do? Who's going to get the money? Like, if she directed the movie and wrote it and took a large role in making it, like, who else is supposed to get the money? If the movie is generating revenue, who's supposed to get it if not the people that made it? That's the part of the argument that I don't understand. Oh, she's a capitalist because she profits from her movie. Yeah, because she made a movie in a capitalist society, and that's how that works. And if she's not making money off of it, then who is? And who deserves it more than she does? She and the other people who actually worked on it, obviously the actors and the crew and everybody who actually made the movie. But who deserves to make money from it more than they do? What, some executive? It's one thing to say we should improve the way things are, but you also have to, while we're working on that improvement or waiting for that improvement to happen, you have to take into account the way things currently are. And if we're living in a capitalist system where people are forced to trade their labor for money in order to live and have things that they need or want, then you're not allowed to fucking complain when an artist finds a way to get paid for their work. As long as the artist isn't doing something like, flagrantly unethical. But if it's just a person earning revenue from a movie they made, what the fuck is the problem? Super chat from Agent Meister. Thank you, my friend. Who's your favorite newspaper editor? Perry White or J. Jonah Jameson? J. Jonah. Because he's more of a character. Like in the comics, Perry's never really that much of a character. You know, I have nothing against Perry. And he has been on screen, he has been played by some terrific actors. But I mean, J. Jonah Jameson is just he there's just so much more to him. He's just so much more interesting and funny and just a much bigger part of the Spider-Man story than Perry is of the Superman story. So no, I would say JJ is definitely more my favorite than Perry. Yeah. Stephen Collard says, even those World War II Japanese soldiers hold up on remote islands or rolling their eyes at Snyder Bros. Oh, yeah. Let me check back over in the questions section. Zulu Romeo says Trump is the mimetic pigeon playing chess with an intellectual, shitting on the board, eating the pieces, and declaring themselves the winner. Exactly. John Stewart says, have you seen any of the discourse about the UFC guy calling Michelle Obama a man and the situation in Senatobia, Mississippi, where the cop killed a 1-year-old? I'm aware of both events. I have not really been following the discourse on it. But yes, I'm aware that both things happened, and one of them is clearly a lot more tragic than the other, but they're both, shitty things that should cause us to be embarrassed about the state of our fucking society. Sinister Intelligence says, have you ever seen the 1967 film In the Heat of the Night? Yes, I have. Great movie. Great movie. Cynical Optimist says, any opinions on Tallarico's campaign in Texas? I quite like him, but I think recently he's been a little too defensive and pandering, e.g. the meat eating and trans comments. I mean, I'm kind of the same opinion. I haven't been following it super closely. I generally like him. But yeah, I feel like maybe I would much rather see him continue to lean into his progressive side because, and this happens a lot when we go from the primary to the general, with Democrats anyway, they run to the left for the primary, and then they run to the center or run to the right for the general. I hope Tallarico doesn't do that too much because, I mean, I think one of the main reasons why people like him is because he is progressive and he is, telling people, hey, we can actually make things better, Cynical Optimist says, calling Jessie a capitalist for selling her work taps into a general attitude I've seen toward artists, that art should be free and artists should suffer for greatness. It's pathetic and gross. I agree. 255 AD says, should Superman have red pants? Yeah, why not? I mean, look, I have seen designs of Superman's costume where he doesn't have the red trunks that look good. I'm not saying that I'm a make or break. Like if he doesn't have the red underwear, I'm not liking it. Like but there's no reason for him not to have it. Like, it's the Superman costume. There's no reason why it's not, it is what it is. Like at a certain point, it just is what it is, and it becomes trying to make it look cool or make it look not silly is wasted effort after a certain point, because it's like, it's the Superman costume. It is what it is, but I am in favor of the red trunks. 255 AD says, why isn't the fact fans like continuity a reason for the creators to? Because fuck the fans. That's why. The creators don't have to care about it because the fans care about it, because fuck the fans. The fans aren't writing the shit. The creators are. As long as Superman doesn't wear a tan suit. He should wear a tan suit as Superman, like not Clark Kent. He should show up to like an event wearing a tan suit with like an S on the back of the jacket. Um, Bean525 says, do you give two shits about John Byrne and his X-Men Else When book? Not really. I'm not super interested in it. Oh, Darth Eddie, that's cool. I didn't know that. In the Heat of the Night takes place the month Star Trek premieres. Chief Gillespie's wall calendar when he first meets Virgil Tibbs says September 1966. How about that? Big month. um, Geralta Trekkie said, I like the New Adventures of Superman. I don't like Dean Cain anymore, but I like the fact that Martha and Jonathan are alive in the series. Look, I still love Lois and Clark. I think it's a great show. Dean Cain is a fucking piece of shit in real life, which is disappointing. But Lois and Clark is a really good show. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, I like Jonathan and Martha in it as well. That's a post-crisis thing, you know, having the Kent still be alive when he is Superman. That's something that was introduced in with the John Byrne Man of Steel series and the post-crisis Superman. The Kents traditionally were dead by the time he became Superman in the comics up until that point. So it was kind of cool to have his parents still be alive, and they were really good in the show. Remako said Spider-Man more black and white or color. I think I already said my opinion. I prefer the black and white. JDC says continuity is expensive. Wants to keep track of. Yeah, Caitlin says, I would say that what makes someone a capitalist is if they keep an unfair portion of the gains from sales. Yeah, because of the economic system that we all live under, technically everybody's a capitalist, practically speaking. But usually especially when people on the left who are critiquing capitalism, when they say someone is a capitalist, they're not talking about that kind of capitalism. They're talking about someone who, you know, takes advantage, who is leaning into capitalism and using it to profit unfairly on the backs of others, that kind of thing. Because I guess under certain definition, yeah, sure, Jessie Gender is a capitalist. Yes, technically she's a capitalist. She's profiting from her work, but so is everybody else. Like it's not really a meaningful distinction. You have to make a distinction as to what you're talking about when you're criticizing capitalism and capitalists, or else you're just saying everybody's bad, which doesn't really make very cogent of a point. Let's be nice now. Yeah, I don't like I just said, Geek. Technically making a movie, technically everybody's a capitalist if they're stuck in a capitalist system. But no, I don't consider making a movie in a capitalist system to be something that like a leftist, like an anti-capitalist needs to be ashamed of. No. John Stewart says, caught your James Earl Jones impression in one of your recent videos, not as good as your John Anderson, bud. Well, I think my John Anderson impression is my best one. Hey, bud. We got to make that hockey game, bud. That's my best impression. My James Earl Jones is nothing. Like, it's really nothing. I'm just making my voice a little deeper and trying to kind of imitate his cadence. But no, my John Anderson is much better. It's much better. This airplane has gone back into time. Geek, if you get upset about it, then just don't talk to him about politics. just don't talk to him about politics if all it does is upset you. Oh, Geralta Trekkie. Also, a good thing about Ma and Pa Kent from Lois and Clark. Jonathan doesn't tell his son, maybe, when the kid is asking if he should have let other kids die. Yeah, I know, right? I still say, look, I still, as much as I really, as I think all of you who watch my stuff regularly know, I really dislike Zack Snyder's whole take on the DC universe and especially his take on Superman. But I still think that attitude of Jonathan Kent could have gone somewhere interesting if it was in a movie made by someone who had any idea what the fuck they were doing. Like, I think there's a germ of a really interesting idea there. But it just that's not the movie we got, you know? Um Power Ranger Donnie says my number one small screen Superman has to be Soups and Lowe's Tyler Hecklin. I loved him. I agree. I think I might agree with you. I think he might be my favorite TV Superman as well. He was just perfect. He was just a wonderful Superman. Big screen Soups, Christopher Reeve. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. We've gotten some really good big screen Superman as well. Like Christopher Reeve, obviously fantastic. George Reeves, who technically was both a big screen and a small screen Superman because he was Superman on TV, but also he did Superman and the Mole Men, which was theatrically released. George Reeves is fantastic. I'm still a defender of Brandon Routh. Thought he was a wonderful Superman, and now we have David Corenswet, who has been outstanding so far. We've been very spoiled as far as live action Supermans. Back to the question tab. Kane 20C says, you know what's sillier than the red trunks? The big S on his chest. We should get rid of it. And the cape and the colors. And most certainly, yeah, exactly. 255 AD says, does being worried Superman will look silly if he wears red trunks imply you're not mature enough to not care about looking immature? That's one way to say it. Yeah, that's one way to say it. I mean, it's silly. There's an inescapable silliness about it. You just have to accept that. Embrace it. 255 also says God tries to keep the continuity of reality consistent. Are you saying God is pandering to his fans? God, I really hope God doesn't start pandering to his fans because some of his fans are not good people. Some of them are, many of them are, but some of them are it depends on what fans God is pandering to. And also, no, God pawns it off to the laws of physics. He delegated that job. He's, you keep things consistent. Cynical Optimist said, could you see yourself branching out into doing book reviews at all? You've mentioned before books you like, Lord of the Rings, for example. Ha ha ha. But it could be cool to hear your thoughts. I don't know if I'll ever have time to do that regularly, just because I don't have nearly as much time to read as I would like to, because I'm just busy with a lot of YouTube stuff all the time. But I mean, I wouldn't say I'm absolutely never going to do a book review, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to work it in as like a regular thing that I do. Zulu Romeo, shame on you, but also very nicely done. Looking forward to Millie Alcock mixing it up with David Corenswet. I'm all for some hot cock sweat action. They are cousins. Although maybe that's not as big of a taboo on Krypton as it is here. 255 AD says, my favorite sci-fi writer, Ian Banks, was a socialist, but his books sold so well he was a multimillionaire with multiple houses and a classic car collection by the time he died. Is that hypocritical? I mean, did he, is that all he spent his money on, or did he spend it on other stuff too? I mean, I don't know enough about it. And also, like I said, I mean, look, unless someone is like, a really predatory asshole, like an artist making a ton of money because their art sold well, I have a hard time objecting to that. It's not like they were, an industrialist or they were exploiting workers, or they're like, if you're a billionaire and you got that money because, you fucked people over and you profited off the labor and genius of other people and had a bunch of money funneled up in your direction when you didn't really do anything to earn it. Not that you could earn that much money, but you know what I'm saying? That's way different than like an artist becoming a millionaire because their art was really popular. DP Samu says, does your video set take over your space? No, not really, because I shoot a lot of videos just in my house as it actually is, you know, like, I mean, there's no set here. This is just my room and it just looks kind of how it looks. And when I do my movie reviews or some more of my off the cuff kind of pop culture or media videos, I shoot in a corner of my living room where I have my movie shelf. And again, that just is what it is. I don't, you know, all I have to do is set up lights and a camera. It's just there. And for a lot of my other shooting, you know, I set up a green screen in the living room and shoot in front of that. And then when I'm done, I take it down. So no, it really doesn't take up my living space because the parts that do get in the way are just temporary. When I'm done with them, I pack them up and put them away. Um, Member message from Kirok. Steve, anyways, I want to point out my personal favorite, even now seeing the Superman 2025, my favorite is still Superman 1978. Best film, you agree or disagree? Nearly a flawless comic film. Favorite like comic book movie? No, I think I like there are a few superhero movies I like better than the original Christopher Reeve Superman, but that's not taking anything away from that movie. I mean, I think the original Christopher Reeve Superman is fantastic. And either it or Superman 2 are, you know, right up there. I mean, I still think Superman Returns is my personal favorite Superman movie, but the first two Christopher Reeves are right up there too. Like I would never fight you on that. Eshawn says they're from Krypton, not West Virginia. Speaking of Superman and Supergirl. Oh, Geralta Trekkie, what's the best Star Trek cliffhanger except Best of Both Worlds? Ooh, that's a good question. The best Star Trek cliffhanger except Best of Both Worlds. The Deep Space Nine one where Odo says that Gowron is a changeling at the very end. That was kind of a good one. What's another one? I mean, it's not the same kind of cliffhanger, but it's kind of like if we're talking just about an unresolved plot that you know you're going to get a follow up to, like you know they're not just going to leave you hanging. The end of Star Trek 3, where Spock comes back, but like that's it. Like you don't know you know that something's going to happen next, but you don't know what. You know, it's not quite a cliffhanger, but it's an unresolved plot that you know is coming back at some point. So that's a good one too. Oh, Michael Emmons says the menagerie. Yeah, maybe. You know, maybe. Past tense. Deep Space Nine, that's another one. Past tense. The name's Bell. Gabriel Bell. And you're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen here? That's a pretty good one. Yeah, Tears from the Prophet. Tears of the Prophets, that's a good one, Zulu. Yeah. Kind of throws things into chaos. You know, Dax is dead. Cisco has left the station and gone back to Earth. Yeah, that's a good one. Michael Evans, Spock died. Spoilers. Sorry. You'll never guess who Luke Skywalker's father is. Wolfwood says, what's your favorite single story Star Trek episode? The Visitor. The Visitor from Deep Space Nine. Easy. Easiest Star Trek question I've ever been asked. Yeah. Let me see. 255 AD says, would you have interest in fantasy if it wasn't like a whole medium so derivative of Lord of the Rings? I mean, there's no way to answer that. We don't live in that world, do we? John Stewart says, any future video on Elon becoming the first trillionaire? I don't have any specific ideas for it right now, but I would not be surprised if it comes up at some point. I did have an idea germinating about it, but it kind of slipped away from me. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it now, but maybe. I don't know. Geralta Trekkie says there were talks about a continuation of Hogan's Heroes. Would you have watched it? I mean, when were we talking? Like, are they going to like they're going to do it now? They're going to make like a new Hogan's Heroes. Like, I would have to watch it just out of curiosity to see what the hell it was going to be. Cynical Optimist says, do you have food or cuisine that you love but everyone else seems to hate? Arby's. I don't care. I love Arby's. I don't care if everybody thinks Arby's is the shits. I like Arby's, goddammit. I like their roast beef sandwiches or whatever that is. They call it roast beef. I don't know if that's what it is, but I like it. I like their chicken sandwiches, even though they keep getting smaller and smaller. Every time I go to Arby's and get a chicken sandwich, it's like it's half as big as it was the last time I got it. I like Arby's, okay? The curly fries. But at the same time, I do get it. Like, people make fun of Arby's a lot, and I get it. Like, I understand. But I enjoy it. 255 AD says, I watched a vid analyzing if the technology we're shown in 32nd century Trek is advanced as it should be, given what we're shown of the future in time travel eps of Voyager and Enterprise. Thoughts? I don't care. I don't care. Makes no difference to me how advanced the technology is at all. Steve Schmeling says, how do you feel about the noise I'm hearing that Masters of the Universe only appeals to Gen X males and it tripped over its own gender identity, and that's why it's not doing well at the box office? Now, I think it's not doing well at the box office because it was marketed too heavily to Gen X males. I think that's the problem. I think I said this before. I mean, they marketed it so aggressively as like almost like it was a legacy sequel. And I mean, it's a legacy franchise. Like, He-Man has been around for a while, but it's like it's a new movie. You know, it's the first of a series. It's like you could almost call it a reboot. And they were leaning so hard on people my age who remember the He-Man cartoon, and there just aren't that many people. Like, He-Man just culturally is not that big of a deal anymore. But they really threw the marketing all into, come see the He-Man movie, see how he became He-Man, He-Man returns. Like, these are some of the slogans that they were using to market it. And I'm like, just market it like you would a big fantasy action adventure movie that even if it wasn't attached to a franchise, you know? Sell the movie that you have, because it's a great movie and it's a ton of fun and it looks great. It's big and bright and just, you know, fantastic. And if you're, and there's no reason why you can enjoy it and understand what's going on and get invested in the characters and the story, even if you've never seen a fucking He-Man cartoon or picked up a He-Man action figure or whatever. Like, it's self-contained. And a lot of the people who have seen it without any pre-existing He-Man fandom have said that. I've said, I really liked it. I thought it was great. I went into it not knowing what to expect, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But a lot of people aren't seeing it because it was marketed exclusively to white dudes in their 40s and 50s who remember the cartoon. So, of course, it's not doing as well as it should. Zulu Romeo says, speaking of capitalism and all things American dream, how about your thoughts on Death of a Salesman? I love Death of a Salesman. Death of a Salesman is one of my favorite pieces of anything. I love the play. I have on DVD, I have the TV special that they did in, I think, 1966, 67, somewhere in the 60s, where it was Lee J. Cobb reprising his role as Willie Loman, and he was the originator of the role on stage. And he came back and played it for this TV special. And I think Gene Wilder is in it. A young Gene Wilder is in it as well, in a straight part, you know, like not doing comedy, and is great. And it's so good. It's so good. And the Brian Dennehy version, they did a recorded version of it that I've seen as well. The Brian Dennehy version is excellent. Um, the Dustin Hoffman one is okay. I feel like it's a little distracting because Hoffman was not age appropriate for the part, and they put a lot of old man makeup on him to age him up for the part. And it's good makeup for the time, but it just, I think it would have been better if Dustin Hoffman would have just waited, you know, 20 years to do it instead of doing it then. But no, I mean, it's Death of it just as a piece, as a work, as a piece of writing, it's brilliant. It's one of my favorite things ever. I love Death of a Salesman. Um, Let me see. Kirok with a super chat. Thank you. Had a very bad experience at Arby's. Runses, yeah. Well, it's not for everybody. I've never had a bad experience at Arby's. But that's me. That's me. Um, Zulu Romeo, as Michael Caine might say, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. He-Man, begin. 255 AD says, what do you think of the noise I'm hearing? It sounds sort of like a faint whistling. I think you should tell whoever's doing it to knock it the fuck off. Cynical Optimist says, I don't know if you follow international politics much, but in the UK, it looks like we're going to be having a new PM soon following Andy Burnham's by-election victory. Any thoughts at all? I mean, I'm given to understand from what John Oliver said about it on Last Week Tonight recently that it's a good thing. So at least of the available options, it seems like a good thing. So I guess I'm happy about it. I don't really know enough about it to have a super strong opinion, but it seems like it could potentially be good news. Um, Steve Schmeling, that's good from Death of a Salesman. Steve's liked, but he's not well liked. Oh, yeah. Some random geek. Now, this is a good question. Why are some folks okay with there being poverty? I think because a lot of people have convinced themselves or been convinced that it needs to exist, or if they themselves don't live in poverty, they just don't care as much as they should. I think that's a lot of it too. Um, oh, Draw to Trekkie. By the way, Death of a Salesman. Who's your favorite Biff? Oh fuck! Who played him in the fucking TV version? George Siegel. Yes, I couldn't think of his name, but he went on to become a great actor. Yeah, George Siegel. George Siegel was great as Biff in the 66. It was, I just looked it up. It was 66, the 66 TV version. Um, Okay, Don Quixote with a super chat. I'll answer this and then we'll start to wrap things up because it's after 8 o'clock here for me and it's usually the time when I end the show. Don Quixote said with a super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Says, are you doing anything special with your father Sunday? This coming September, it'll be 35 years since I lost my. I'm very sorry. Very sorry that you lost your dad. No, I don't really do anything special for Mother's Day or for Father's Day. I don't have me and Dad don't have any special Father's Day plans. Although now that you've left me that comment, maybe I should reconsider that. But no, at the moment, no, we don't have any special Father's Day plans. I know I said I was gonna wrap it up. But let me just take one last look at the Q&A tab. See if there's any that I have missed. And I think I'm good. All right. It's doing that thing where like Two to five AD says, I have no idea what happens in Death of a Salesman, but when I hear that title, I imagine like a stereotypical 1950s door-to-door salesman, and he just falls over and dies in the gutter. Is that the plot? Not exactly, but you're not super far off. Yeah, Geek, maybe take it easy. You've got Caitlin beseeching me to say something to you. I know that a lot of these subjects we're talking about upset you, and I believe me, I'm sympathetic to that. But I mean, it's always an option to take your hands away from the keyboard. You know, like when you yell at somebody through a chat box, like there's an intermediate step there where you're typing it in, and you don't have to do that. Like if you feel yourself getting pissed off and it's not going to go anywhere, like you're not going to accomplish anything, by just back off, count to 10, reconsider, you know, because it doesn't really help anything if you know, and it does. I mean, and it probably makes you feel bad too, because I mean, who wants to be fucking, you know, like that all the time? It's not that you don't have a right to be upset, or that, you know, you're completely out of line as far as your feelings, but you know, just, you know, take advantage of the buffer that the keyboard provides for you. And yes, don't forget to practice self-care. Yes, good advice. All right, so I'm going to start wrapping things up. First of all, since I was just mentioning some random geek, let me go ahead and say it right now. Charitylinks.page is a document that Geek maintains for us that contains information from a lot of friends of ours who need a helping hand, who need some help getting getting the bills paid, keeping the lights on, putting food on the table. And if you have a few bucks left over at the end of the month, and you can afford to help out someone else who needs a helping hand, maybe consider doing that. You can find people that need your help, and ways for you to send help to them at charitylinks.page. And I urge you to make use of that if you're in a position and of a disposition to do so. Also, as far as I'm concerned, if you would like to help me continue doing this YouTube thing, which, believe it or not, is my job and it is what I do to put food on the table. I don't need a lot though, but I would still like to have money, if you don't mind. Because as we've been talking about, we're trapped in a capitalist system and I kind of need it. And I like to have it in exchange for all of the stuff that I do. But patreon.com/Steve Shives, or clicking the join button to become a channel member. Those are the two best ways to support this channel and to support this work that I do. If you want to, if it means something to you, and if you can afford it, I very, very much appreciate all of my regular monthly supporters, whether you are a patron or a member, or in the case of some of you, both, which is great. I don't ask for that or expect that. But of course, if you want to be a patron and a member, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. And I really, really appreciate it. I could not do this without all of you who are patrons and or members. And if you are a patron or a member at any level of support from $1 a month on up, one of the benefits you can take advantage of is you can submit questions ahead of time for these Ask Away live streams. And those are the questions that I answer in the first part of the show. Just my one little thing I do to say thanks and let you guys know that I appreciate you. So, and I do. Thank you very much for being a patron and a member and helping me to continue doing this. And also, in addition to the YouTube stuff, I'm also a cast member on a couple of podcasts that are a part of the Let Me Listen podcast family. There is Late Seating, the movie review podcast that I do alongside my best friend Jason Harding, where we take a look at classic films and see if they live up to whatever their reputation happens to be, good or bad. Our most recently recorded episode is our review of the sci-fi classic District 9. And if you want to hear me and Jason gush over a movie, listen to our review of District 9, because we're both fans. Unfortunately, the next episode of Late Seating will be about Disaster Movie. But it should be a fun show to listen to. And it'll be a fun show to do. It just won't be fun to watch that movie. But, these are the sacrifices that we make for our podcast. And also, in addition to Late Seating, I'm also on the Ensign's Log, which is a Star Trek themed improv comedy podcast. And I'm on alongside Jason and our friend Amanda Billings, and we all play original characters that we have created who exist in the Star Trek universe. And, sort of canonical Star Trek stuff is happening in the background while our own adventures are the focus of the show. And it's such a fun show to do. It's always one of the highlights of my week when it's a week that we're recording Ensign's Log. And hopefully that comes across, and hopefully it makes it a fun show for you folks to listen to. And if you enjoy Star Trek and you enjoy sort of satires of Star Trek, or shows that make light of and make fun of Star Trek, you might want to give the Ensign's Log a try if you have not done so already. And if you have, thank you very much for doing so. All right, and I believe we'll call it a night right there. Let me just make double sure that I didn't miss any extra super chats. I did not. Thank you all, as always, so much for your generosity with the super chats. I really appreciate that too. Anyway, that's it. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Once again, happy Juneteenth to everybody here who celebrates it. And yeah, have a good weekend, everybody. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.